Hey guys, and welcome to Collider Movie Talk for movie fans. I'm your host, Natasha Martinez, and this is the daily show where we give you all the latest news in the world of movies, plus some insight into what it all means. Kicking off our show today is John Campea.
Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth. I'm going to stop right there to not screw things up like I did yesterday.
Also joining us, Jon Schnepp.
What's going on, man? I'm going to do this. It's a little inside joke for all my friends.
Also joining us, Jeremy Jahns.
What he's doing is the Muppet dance. Where you go?
That's right. It was a very loose and bad impersonation of Jeremy Jahns. I obviously failed because that's the real deal.
And also joining us, who will hopefully be doing that same dance, is Kristian Harloff.
I can't follow John's because that's
you
where it
have
originated
to.
from. I said he just reminded me. He did some weird thing yesterday. He reminded me like of a Muppet just locked in a closet, and then he went.
There you go.
You know, I think I'm going to institute, I think I'm going to call it Natalie. I think I'm going to institute a rule for today. As Jon Schnepp is answering any question today, he has to be doing whatever that was.
Yeah.
And to compensate, I will do the Enchantress whenever I'm answering.
Oh, no. This is awesome. This is going to be a great show
It's going
today,
to be a fun
guys.
day. All right,
sounded
let's get
rough.
started. What's first up?
Okay, Warner Brothers announced yesterday that it is shaking up its executive team by replacing creative development and production chief Greg Silverman with New Line's Toby Emmerich as the new president and chief content officer. In an article from Variety, the reasons given for the ousting is due in large part to costly flops from the studio that include Pan and In the Heart of the Sea, as well as the company's leadership being unhappy with the poor critical reception for Suicide Squad and Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice. Emmerich will share green light authority with Warner Brothers chairman and CEO Kevin Tsujihara and will effectively take the position after the new year. Jeremy, what are your thoughts on Silverman's exit and what does it mean for the future of Warner Brothers movies?
I thought this is really funny. When I saw this is what I know. I mean, if you just line up the timeline. Yesterday, John Campea passionately rages out on how Warner Brothers has handled the DC Cinematic Universe. One day later, they shake things up. Coincidence? Don't know. All I know is it happened. And that's just what I thought about it. John, you're changing lives.
Power.
You're changing lives, Palpatine. Good job. But yeah, I mean, when things line up like that, a shakeup in management, it's inevitable and probably necessary. So I don't think it's a bad thing at all. They're doing what they feel they need to do to help their companies thrive and their product thrive. The movies, hopefully, better. So, yeah, I see it. Good job, John. You did this.
Well, look, let me say this. I think Greg Silverman is a very talented dude. He's a very smart dude. But, yeah, like, you can really like an NFL coach, but when you go 0-8 or 1-12, at some point, you just need to shake things up and you need to move things out. Pan, Heart of the Sea, the divisive stuff. Like, once again, I'm a fan of BVS and I'm a fan of Suicide Squad, but there's no denying it really divided the audiences. And when you have that sort of a track record, at some point, even if you are a very smart and talented dude, it's time for a shakeup. And that doesn't mean he won't land on his feet somewhere else and do some really good things other places, much like a lot of NFL coaches who are failing in one city go to a new environment and they can succeed. But there's just no denying when you look at some of these big, like Pan, I mean, Pan was
Garbage.
Oh my
Not
God,
good.
it was so bad. And The Heart of the Sea was like, it went from being one of my, you know, when you hear about a movie, you're going, that's going to be an Oscar contender. And you get super excited. And I was so pumped for that movie. And you watch it, it's like, really? Yeah. Like that. And then once again, the sputtering of the DC Cinematic Universe at this point, they can turn things around. You had to shake it up. It's unfortunate, but it sounds like the right move. Schnepp, what do you think?
Yeah, actually, do you guys know from that picture who's who?
Yeah, Silverman's in the back left.
Silverman, the smiling guy, is the one who's fired and got the golden parachute.
Yeah.
All right. Well, yeah, I hope he lands somewhere safely with the hundreds of millions of dollars of the golden parachute money that he probably got. But you're right. I mean, that's what happens. I mean, usually when you have a bunch of misfires at a large studio, there's the smaller people you never hear of get canned. You know,
right?
And then it slowly builds and builds and builds upward. It usually rolls downstream. But then if you can't avoid it, like this kind of thing where you're like, there's misfires on all fronts, you need a change in direction. You have to do something like this, and it's public too. They're making it to their shareholders weird, making a big change at the top, so that you shareholders will see the change next year. So.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I mentioned yesterday on the show. I actually worked for Greg Silverman for a little bit too, and he was very beloved at Warner Brothers. And I think I actually like the way that they handled this, and the spin on it is fine. And I like the fact that they gave the spin, even though we can kind of call it what it is. But they're also taking care of someone that they do hold in high regard, and he's done a lot of great stuff for them, and they're going to take care of him and let him do his thing over in the smaller sides of film. And good, I'm glad that they're doing that, because he is a good guy, and he is a guy that is a hard-working guy and wants to do good movies. But like you said, I think your sports analogy was great. You give a guy a run, and if he doesn't win you a championship, you try to find someone that can. And that's what they're going to do with Toby Emmerich. And Toby Emmerich has done a lot of stuff over at New Line, and I think that maybe his vision is something that they're more in line with, something that we were talking about yesterday as bringing in the one guy that can kind of drive the bus to where the location we want to go. I think they had the different visions, and maybe Greg Silverman was more on the old school side of thinking as far as, like we were talking about the Margot Robbie stuff. Maybe that was grabbing the stars and making the movies. Maybe that's not Toby Emmerich's vision. Time will tell. Right. But I think it's a move that had to be done, because it's just not working over there. Not just with DC. In general, a lot of their movies are not working right now.
And it should be pointed out this, because if you didn't see it yesterday, I went off on Warner Brothers and how they're handling DC right now. As somebody who really loves the DC characters and stuff like that, and wants this franchise to succeed and wants the cinematic universe to be awesome, and as a fan, I'm really frustrated at a lot of things. But I will say this. You got to say this. Going back a couple of months, Warner Brothers is not sticking their head in the sand and going, no, we're not going to listen to it. We're not going to acknowledge that we're making mistakes. No, they have been pretty proactive in their leadership stuff. Whether it's the stuff with Jeff Johns, whether you think Johns was the right pick or not, at least they're trying to do something. The elevating of Ben Affleck. And now going further up the chain, their chief content officer making a change there. I will say, in WB's credit, and I think you got to give them points for this, is that they recognize things are not going the way they should be, and they're going to change things at the top to try to have a long-term thing to fix this ship. I'm still frustrated that it seems they're being very reactionary in their content, but at least they're doing what good companies should do. Recognize things aren't working, make changes in the leadership, and then let that play out. And I give them props for that.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I just think that if you look at the leadership that's been there, whether it's a Jeff Robinoff, Alan Horn, they've had a lot of people in there that just, after a while, the shift moves on. So they want to go in a different direction. Right now, they see what Disney's doing, and they're taking another shot with Emmerich. So let's see what happens.
I agree. There is something to be said for a studio that's like, we're trying to fix the problem. We don't necessarily know how right now. I remember one time I fell asleep at work, and my boss caught me.
And that was yesterday.
Yeah. Well, I mean, before it happened with you, before it happened with you the day before that, and then the week before that, what?
I said, tell them you're my cousin.
That's still a hashtag out there if you want to use it. No, but and then I sprung up, because it was in the projection booth. And I sprung up, and I was like, I have to start movies. What's a movie? Where am I? What's work right now? Who are you? I need to do something. And I feel like that's where Warner Brothers is right now. They recognize they need to get their thoughts in order. And right now, they're doing a mad scramble going, okay, we need to fix this. Well, we need to fix this also. And they're going to find their way into it. It's just going to take a little bit of time. So I guess we just need to have patience with it.
Yeah, and like a sports team that changes GMs or something, let's not expect a change overnight. Right. This is gonna be the long play. This is gonna take time to really show an effect. Let's give them the patience. But again, I think it was the right move.
Well, again, not to go too long into this, but it's very similar. Like when a president takes over, there are other things that were in motion beforehand that are going to carry through. That doesn't necessarily reflect that president. It's the same thing. There are going to be projects that Silverman had going that they're going to continue to go, and they're still going to be the ones that he pushed forward.
But also in the same breath, usually when they change guard, all the projects that were in development are wiped off the table.
It depends. It depends on what they like and what they don't like.
Right.
Yeah.
It'll be really interesting to see what Emmerich does at this point with all this. All right, let's move on. What's next?
Legendary announced via a press release yesterday that Godzilla 2 and Pacific Rim 2 have undergone a couple of title changes. First is the official title for Godzilla 2, the follow-up to Gareth Edwards' 2014 monster blockbuster, which is now officially titled Godzilla King of Monsters. Second up is a new title for Pacific Rim 2, which was first called Pacific Rim Maelstrom and is now titled Pacific Rim Uprising. Krampus filmmaker Michael Dougherty is scripting the Godzilla sequel and is also in talks to replace director Gareth Edwards, while Pacific Rim Uprising is currently in production and set for a February 23, 2018 release. John, thoughts on the new titles for Godzilla 2 and Pacific Rim 2?
Well, let's start with Godzilla. I love the title. I would have, little tiny nitpick, I would have liked the word "the" in there. I would have liked King of the Monsters. But what, King of Monsters? I dig it. I think it's a cool title. It's got a little retro flavor to it. It's a bold title. I really, really dig it.
I'll tell you why I love it.
Why?
It's because you get just in the next movie. Are you really?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Which is also, that could play into that. With as far as the new Pacific Rim, I get it. I get the change. You know, Pablo Hidalgo, big wig over at Lucasfilm and Star Wars, he brought up a point that basically suggests, you know why they had to change the title? Because people were going to misspell Maelstrom when doing social media pushes. And I'm sure he said that tongue-in-cheek, but there's some truth in that. Uprising is it's a good title. It's solid. I like Maelstrom. I mean, I don't think I was super warm on it when it first came out, but it kind of grew on me a little bit. Not to the point that I loved it. So I'm fine with the Pacific Rim 2 title. I am, but I really dig the Godzilla title. What do you think?
I think to me the Godzilla one's the one that stands out a lot more because, I joke about it, but I seriously think that it has a lot to do with King Kong because this is the one where Godzilla wins the title. And then he's got to defend the title in the next match against Kong because that's going to happen, Kong versus Godzilla, because as we see in Skull Island, that's a big Kong.
That's
not
the
the Kong
biggest
we know.
Kong we've ever had.
This is a different type of Kong. So it gets me excited alone. So that title is brilliant. It's a great title. I think, even though I think Maelstrom's a better title, I think Uprising is the good way to go for that reason alone, not only for the social media aspect of it, but I think just it's easier for the public to just Uprising. Okay, great. Right. Pacific Rim, Uprising. Because everyone's going to be saying Pacific Rim 2 anyway.
Right.
So, to me, the one that stands out is Godzilla.
So, Jeremy, two things. Like, number one, what do you think of these titles? Number two, let's look a little bit further ahead. Who do you think wins between Kong and Godzilla?
Well, Bong wins over a lot, say the voters of last November. Okay, so the titles of, I love the King of the Monsters, or King of Monsters for the same reasons you guys said. It sets up like, oh, I'm king. And then the other Kong's going to come in and be like,
excuse me?
John C. Reilly said, I'm king. So I think I think that I am the king. So maybe King Kong 2 could be like, it'll be like Godzilla, King of the Monsters, and King Kong, King of the people of that
King
one
of the world.
somewhere. Yeah.
King of John Goodman.
Photoshop. Yeah, I love the title for the setup that it's doing. Maelstrom, I love a lot more than this new Pacific Rim title. I don't think the illiteracy of tweeters should determine titles. I mean, I am the worst speller on earth. I'm like Lois Lane out there. You know, I'm always like, how do you spell that? Does that have 2 L's or 2 R's? And I'll always Google it and before I do something.
That's why you do video.
Exactly. That's exactly why I do videos, because I'm a crappy speller. So, I mean, I don't like the reason they did it. And maybe that's me being stubborn. Maybe I'm the guy at Warner Brothers they would fire because they'd be like, you know what, you're too stubborn, you can't save our franchise. And so I would totally be out. But I like Maelstrom a lot more than the new title they have, but I love the title King of the Monsters for sure.
Schnepp.
Pacific Rim Maelstrom or Pacific Rim Uprising. That when you say them together, to me, Pacific Rim Uprising just sounds better. It just like sounds more natural.
Yeah, flows off the tongue a little bit better.
Flows better. So I can see the reason they changed that. Also, a lot of people, Maelstrom, what is that?
Right.
Uprising. Oh, so just makes more sense. King of the Monsters, you're right. I'm just automatically adding a the in there.
Yeah.
Why? Because I used to buy that comic book from the 70s, Godzilla, King of the Monsters, and that's exactly what it was called. I was a giant Godzilla fan as a kid. I love the title. I'm going to buy a poster simply because it's called Godzilla, King of the Monsters. I'm going to draw a the in there. And that's it.
So this isn't just a setup for the fight to come. This is hard fan service for fans
Oh,
of the
yeah.
comics from back in the day. I love that.
But just like you guys know this, you never hear me say Rogue One, a Star Wars story.
Yeah.
I will always call it Star Wars Rogue One. That is the title to me. I will also always call it Godzilla, King of the Monsters.
Yeah.
That's just what I can say. No disrespect to the studios at all in either case. That's just what I'm going to call it. All right, guys. Well, since it is Thursday, it's time for us to talk about what is opening this week, brought to you by our friends at AMC Theaters. Now, we are all well aware of a certain gigantic movie from a galaxy far away, but there's a couple of other things opening this week. Natasha, tell us about them.
Okay, we have Collateral Beauty. When a successful New York advertising executive played by Will Smith suffers a great tragedy, he retreats from life to seek answers from the universe by writing letters to love, time, and death. When his notes bring unexpected personal responses, he begins to understand understand how these constants interlock in a life fully lived, and how even the deepest loss can reveal moments of meaning and beauty. Manchester by the Sea, after the death of his older brother Joe, Lee Chandler, played by Casey Affleck, is shocked to learn that Joe has made him sole guardian of his nephew Patrick. Taking leave of his job, Lee reluctantly returns to Manchester by the Sea to care for Patrick and is forced to deal with the past that separated him from his wife Randy, played by Michelle Williams.
All right, so Kristian, I think you're the only one at the table who's seen Manchester by the Sea, and you also saw. Have you seen Collateral Beauty? Okay, so should people be looking forward to Manchester by the Sea?
I mean, 2 feel-good movies of the year, I guess. Yeah, everyone should be looking forward to these because from what I'm hearing about Collateral Beauty is that you're going to get, yet again, another great performance by Will Smith, a guy that when he is locked in, which he normally is, he's engaging. He's likable. There's something about him that you just start to you care. So when you hear this, and I got it from the trailer, so you guys can talk more about it after you saw it. But I got from the trailer that kind of Christmas story, not Christmas story, but Christmas Carol type of vibe. But for me, Manchester by the Sea is the one that it just got me. It really got me. I think Casey Affleck is going to be nominated, could possibly win for Best Actor. It's a hard movie to watch. I don't know if I could ever watch it again, but it's about as real as you're going to get. It's not traditional storytelling, so maybe some people are going to be a little put off by the way that the story's told, and maybe by the end of it, you're like, it's real. It's a real movie, and sometimes people just go to escape. But I liked what Lonergan did directing this film. Michelle Williams is another one who will be nominated. It's a powerful movie. I can say that. Not everybody, like joke, it's not a feel-good movie. So
Sure.
Jeremy, you haven't seen either of these films yet.
I saw Collateral.
Oh, that's right.
Review
you
is
know
coming.
what? I think I was sitting beside you.
You were
when
sitting,
you,
I was sitting
I'm
right
sorry.
next to
I
you.
totally forgot about
I'm
that.
that forgettable. It's okay. When you bring someone onto your show, you should be like, who's the most forgettable person I know? All right, come on, Jahns. Let's go
All
on.
right, so it's number one. Just should people be looking forward to Collateral Beauty, and are you looking forward to Manchester by the Sea?
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to Rogue One again. I get to see it. That's great. And I'm really excited about that. No, Collateral Beauty, I want to save it a lot of it for my review. I will say about Will Smith's performance, the dude can do no wrong. No matter what you thought about Suicide Squad, you know that Will Smith was one of the things of Suicide Squad that was great. In Collateral Beauty, he has a couple of scenes, a couple of hard tear-jerking scenes where you're like, that monologue alone is one of the best things I've seen from Will Smith in a really long time. Keeping in mind, this dude was the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. You know, like no one knew
Another
that this
lifetime
guy,
ago.
Right. No one knew that this guy was going to be one of the most charismatic and talented actors working in Hollywood. Had no idea. I thought he was just going to be popcorn flick Will Smith forever because of Independence Day. And I thought that was going to be great. But Will Smith, I'm telling you, when this guy wants to, it's like he flips a switch and it's like, all right, bring on the tears. And the tears are brought on. Manchester by the Sea is one of those films where I always have a hard time trying to find the theater in the country that shows the small limited release movies, you know? So I'm telling you, man, screeners just make it so much easier for people who get those. But I do enjoy those movies that you can watch once and that's all you need to do. But I do have a hard time with those films where it's like, oh yeah, you walk out of there, it's not feel good stuff. And so you basically emotionally beat yourself, you know? And so you're like, sometimes it's necessary, sometimes it's not. So I'm on the fence as to whether or not I actually want to put myself through Manchester by the Sea.
It's emotionally draining. I can tell you
right,
that.
dude. I'm telling you, like those Death Star plans, those are important.
Schnepp, you looking forward to either of these?
I am most definitely looking forward to both of these. I think for every Rogue One, there should be a Manchester by the Sea, and I think that is part of the whole fun of going to the movies.
Yeah.
Is getting emotionally invested in the storyline of characters, not just fanciful farce, outer space characters, but like real life characters, like Nocturnal Animals, very hard hitting drama. I don't ever want to see it again. I thought it was a really good movie. I think Manchester by the Sea, in the same breath, I have a screener of it. I haven't seen it yet because I've heard how rough it is.
Yeah.
Even at home, I'm not really. You got to brace yourself sometimes for these emotional films. But I am very much looking forward to seeing it. Collateral Beauty, I have not seen yet, and I'm looking forward to it. You guys who did see it, is it like It's a Wonderful Life? Is it those kind? Is it a callback to that kind of thing?
I feel
Without
like
giving away too much.
Yeah,
Is
I
that-
want to be very, very
Okay.
careful going
Yeah.
to spoilers because I mean it's. I will echo something I said yesterday. I do think it's the best performance Will Smith has ever given.
That's
I
bold.
was so
Over Pursuit, huh?
Over Pursuit. I was so invested in him. Like it was that. It's very difficult for a super famous actor to make you forget that you're watching that actor.
Sure.
And about 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes into the film, I forgot it was Will Smith. All I saw was Howard, and what Howard was going through. That's the name of his character. Was unbelievable. I don't want to give anything more away other than that.
It's worth seeing though.
I think people should
Yeah,
see it.
see,
I think
it's-
people should see it, but it has its problems. My review on that is going to go up
Okay.
tomorrow,
Yeah.
so keep your eyes open for that. All right, guys, we've reached that part of the show now for buy or sell. Here's how this works. In front of her, Natasha's got a few other items in the world of movie news. She's going to run them down. And those of us at the table are simply going to say whether we buy it or sell it. So, Natasha, what do we got?
Okay, first up, we have a story that made my day yesterday. Universal Pictures has released its first trailer for Despicable Me 3. In the sequel, Steve Carell reprises his role as Gru, as well as voicing a new addition to the franchise, Gru's long-lost twin brother, Drew, who is exactly like Gru, except with hair and also different in every way. Despicable Me 3 will see Gru facing off against Balthazar Bratt, voiced by Trey Parker, a former child star driven to supervillainry as a result of the cancellation of his TV series. Despicable Me 3 opens in theaters on June 30th, 2017. Kristian, buy or sell the first trailer for Despicable Me 3.
Natasha, don't hate me. I'm going to sell it. I actually really like Despicable Me 1 and 2. I did think it was smart that they didn't rely on the Minions too much in this movie because we've been Minion to death, and I love the Minions. You got them in the post, really. And I still want to see the movie. It just felt like the same thing. I didn't really get any laughs out of it, too. I just felt like I just seen it over and over and over and over again. But I do like Gru. I like the Minions. I do want to see the movie. The Minions movie was not very good. Despicable Me 2 was, but I figured they could have just stopped it there. So I didn't get anything out of this one particularly, but I could be changed.
Yeah, I like Despicable Me 1, and I really like Despicable Me 2. Minions fell flat for me. But I'm going to buy this trailer. I giggled like the first maybe 20 seconds. I was like, and then the gag starts to unveil itself, And I got into it, and I did smile, and I did chuckle. So for me, it's a buy. I like this trailer.
Yeah, I'm going to buy it, too. I've never been huge into this Despicable Me movies. I remember my first review of Despicable Me. Harloff texted me after it went live. He's like, "You have no heart."
Oh, okay.
You really did. You texted me. You're like, or something like, "You have no soul," I think is what he said. But this one, when I was watching the trailer, I was watching it here, and I was chuckling the entire time. It was just like chuckle, 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 chuckle. I love the Michael Jackson music incorporated with this really eccentric villain who I look at, and I'm like, if YouTube ever dries up, I know what my future is. It's that guy's life. So I'm actually pretty pumped about that.
I'm going to buy it. I mean, Despicable Me 2 was an unexpected, I just randomly went to see it while it was like the last day it was in the theater. And I absolutely loved it and went back and saw the first
El
Despicable
Macho.
Me. Yeah. So I'm buying this trailer too. It's like, even if the trailer doesn't have all the laughs that I think that because I remember all the trailers for the first two Despicable Me's, nothing. I didn't feel nuts. So this, at least I see something in there.
Who's the soulless one now? I'm the only one who's
Yeah, right. That's what I said, Darth Harloff.
I know.
Well, I'm curious,
Let the hate
Natasha.
flow.
You seem to be very love this franchise. Did you like the trailer?
I loved the trailer. I mean, how could you not? Shoulder pads, Michael Jackson,
Yeah.
Gru, and then they just tipped it off with a little minion bit at the end, which I thought was perfect. I feel like this trailer is kind of what people need. It's just a little taste, doesn't give away all the gags. I'm so excited. I'm so excited for this villain, especially Michael Jackson.
Okay, so I'm going to put you and Schnepp together. You can have your dance off later. All right.
Yes.
What is next?
Okay, according to a report from The Hollywood Reporter, Mozart in the Jungle co-creator Alex Timbers is in negotiations to helm Disney's live-action Cruella de Vil origin story entitled Cruella. The movie will star Emma Stone as the title character with a script by 50 Shades of Grey and Saving Mr. Banks' Kelly Marcel. No release date has been set for the project. Schnepp, buy or sell Alex Timbers directing the live-action Cruella?
Let me see if I could do my Muppet dance.
It's fantastic.
Polly taught me this.
Is that a Muppet Enchantress?
Yeah, that's
Yeah, I was going to say, that's a combo.
Somewhere in the middle.
Pop and lock it,
Yeah, I'm
yeah.
going to buy this. I'm buying it mainly because Emma Stone is going to be portraying Cruella, and that she's a great actress. I think that's a good casting call, and I certainly hope this is a musical. I'm also buying it with the idea that it is a musical. And if it's not a musical, when I find out, I retract the buy. In the future.
What do you think, Jeremy?
I would buy it if Emma Stone was playing Cruella de Vil in another 101 Dalmatians movie, but I don't need to know where all my villains come from. I'm selling this on the premise where it's like villains are great in their movies. I don't need villain origin stories every time, so I'm selling it on the premise that I'm just sick of that. Have the villains in the movies that are actually the movies that the villains are from. No more prequel origin stories.
Wait, this one is tough because Maleficent, to me, was a disappointment. I mean, Angelina Jolie was great in it, but the movie was a disappointment, so I'm a little bit worried about that. But I'm going to buy this. After seeing La La Land and understanding that Timbers has like a musical background, I think it's pretty safe to have an initial assumption that this will be a musical. As such, I think it's cool. Cruella de Vil is one of the greatest Disney villains ever. She's fantastic. Emma Stone is rocking. Her playing Cruella, to me, is a crazy departure. Yeah. It'll be interesting to see. So for me, it's a buy.
I'm torn because there's some. I agree with a lot of the points. I'm going to buy his. I'm going to buy his involvement in the film because I think he could actually make this movie fun. Like you're saying, I think that could. And Emma Stone playing Cruella could be fun. But I'm going to agree with Jeremy that the fact Maleficent was such a misstep because I think that they righted the ship with Cinderella and everything else too, but they basically destroyed the mythology of why. I wanted to know why Maleficent was bad. I liked what they were kind of doing with it, but they changed it completely and just changed it. I don't want them to do the same thing here with Cruella, and they might not. They might absolutely show exactly why she is as despicable as we know her in the movie. So if that stays that way, it could be interesting. But I'll buy it because I think he will do a good job.
Was it they? I hated that. And then not only did they kind of correct the ship with Cinderella as a movie as a whole, but what they did, was it Cate Blanchett who played the wicked stepmother in Cinderella? What they did with Cate Blanchett and the wicked stepmother in Cinderella was like, that's how, if you want to fill out the story to one of these villains, that's how you fill it out. That's how you give that character more dimension. If they can bring that to Cruella, that could be really good.
I have no problem with filling out the story. Do not change the story. Like you can change it up a tad as long as it still fits the same, through line. But they changed it completely.
I think especially because the guy Timbers is coming from this musical background, you might as well say it's definitely going to be a musical. And I see it's them building up, like, how did she become Cruella? Perhaps she was really nice and all these things happened. She became evil, 101 Dalmatians happened, and then there's something that, something redemptive could happen. Who knows?
Wendy, is this something that can work?
I mean, the director, I buy. Emma Stone, I buy because she just came off La La Land, so if they went ahead and made this a musical, sure, I buy the talent and I buy the director. But I am selling the fact that we even are making a Cruella adaptation. Like all of you basically set up there, Maleficent was a huge disappointment. They made her kind of good, like, oh, well, she's just misunderstood. I don't like that. No, she's supposed to be bad. I was afraid of Maleficent when I was younger watching Sleeping Beauty. It should be the same for Cruella. I also feel like, and I love Emma Stone, not to diss her in any way, but I don't know. Do you guys feel she's like just looks a little bit young? I guess this is an origin story, so she could be
being
younger.
an origin story would make sense.
But I would have liked to see you brought up Cate Blanchett, and I think she would have made an amazing Cruella.
Well, yeah, if they wanted to make a Cruella in the same age, but if they want to go younger, could tell a story of a younger Cruella.
What if this is Cruella, Emma Stone, as a youth becoming, and then they're going to do a new remake of 101 Dalmatians, and she's going to play Cruella a little bit aged up.
That would be cool if they've got that type of long-term vision for it. That would be cool. All right, what's next?
Okay, I just read that. Okay, Deadline reports that Sony Pictures Animation chief Christine Belson has fast-tracked Vivo, an animated musical by Lin-Manuel Miranda, featuring 11 songs written by the Hamilton creator. Miranda's In the Heights collaborator is writing the script with the Croods Helmer Kirk D'Amico set to direct. Vivo is a longtime passion project for Miranda about a capuchin monkey with a thirst for adventure and a passion for music who makes a treacherous passage from Havana to Miami to fulfill his destiny. Sony has now dated the picture for December 18th, 2020 release date. John, buy or sell a new animated musical by Lin-Manuel Miranda with Vivo.
Yeah, and it's an automatic buy, especially after just watching Moana and what he did with that. I mean, it was beautiful and wonderful. So it's like, I was excited about him getting involved in world animation because of his work in Hamilton. But now I've seen his work in animation and the music he brings to the sensibilities of the medium of animation. And the results so far have been wonderful. So for me, it's a big buy. Schnepp.
Yeah, Vivo Las Vegas. I want to see this monkey and a bunch of spider monkeys and howler monkeys and a billion other monkeys all singing. I can't wait. Hearing this news is very exciting. especially after seeing Moana. So yeah, it's a big buy.
Kristian.
It's a big buy for me. And don't get mad at me for saying this, but when I saw Moana and I heard all the music, I automatically started thinking Tim Rice and Elton John, man, the way that that kind of magic felt when I heard that kind of music.
Sure.
And you lock up that feeling right away, and they're the fact that he's able to do, whoever's going out to get this guy, to have him do more stuff, to have him involved in animation, he understood it. He got it. And I watched some of the behind-the-scenes stuff with him working with The Rock, and he's like conducting and moving. This is just a natural born talent. This was someone, when you look at them going, he was born to do this.
Yeah.
This is what he is meant to do. So you get him to do as much as possible. It's a smart move. It's a big buy.
Now, look, I'm not a tattoo guy. I'm not. But if I were a tattoo guy, after 17 or 18 various Star Wars tattoos, I would probably get the line, there's a line where the sky meets the sea and it calls me. I would probably get that tattooed on somewhere. Every time I see Moana and that line is sung, I get chills.
I thought you were talking about Hervé Villachez for a second.
Oh, really?
You're like, I'm not a tattoo guy. I was like, what's wrong with Herv?
All right, what's next? That reference went right over half of our audience
right,
heads.
yeah.
Some of you got it.
The plane.
What's happening?
Jeremy.
That was the last.
Oh, okay. What's next in me? Okay.
Oh,
Yeah. Well, it was funny because when you were talking about tattoos, I was like, Moana, are you going to get living tattoos? That's awesome. I thought you were going to talk about that. I thought you knew something I didn't know. And then I was like, okay. The real tattoos in the basis of reality. Fine. Get your head out of the clouds, Jeremy. No, there's nothing that I can say that hasn't already been said. It's like this huge talent, crushes it in animation, has great music, and he's getting more work. Yeah, no kidding. I'm surprised we didn't hear about this weeks ago, So, I mean, I'm looking forward to that. It's kind of like, hey, you went to this restaurant, had the best food ever. This person has another restaurant. Are you surprised, and are you going to go? No, I'm not surprised at all, and yes, I'm going to go. Why would I not eat that food?
The one thing I'm a little bit surprised about here is I'm surprised Disney did not lock this guy down to an exclusive contract. That is, unless they wanted to, and Miranda was like, he understands how hot he is right now. And like, nope, I ain't doing that. Yeah. So it's going to be interesting to see him do one outside of the walls of Disney and see how that goes. All right, guys, listen, we're doing this show live, and what we like to do with our live shows is save a little bit of time at the end of the show for your live Twitter questions for those of you who are watching us live. How do you get a question in? It's simple. Make sure you're following us on Twitter at Collider Video. Start sending in some questions there, and Wendy will pick a couple out near the end of the show. I also want to remind you, Movie Talk is not the only show going up on Collider Video today. A little bit later, Kristian Harloff and his Jedi Council going up today. Gosh, I wonder what they're going to be talking about today. Who
Clone
knows?
Wars.
And, of course, a brand new Schmodown drops tomorrow between this guy once again and Josh McCouga, the Wild Man. Also, an Exorcist panel for the TV show Exorcist that our very own Collider Nightmares crew did with Clark Wolf is dropping later today at 2 p.m. Keep your eyes open for that. All right. It is now time for Mailbag. Listen, guys, if you've got a topic or a question you'd like us to address on the show, just email us anytime at collidervideo@gmail.com. Natasha, what's in the mailbag today?
Okay, Ryan writes, "What's up, Collider crew? Now that Warner Brothers has announced the Harley Quinn Gotham Sirens movie, I want to know who you would like to see cast as Catwoman and Poison Ivy, respectively. I think the obvious names out there are Alicia Vikander and Sofia Boutella, but I'd like to see who you think could deliver a powerful performance. Thanks for all the content, and keep up the filthy."
Poison Ivy, I think, is a no-brainer. I think some people would probably throw Emma Stone out there, but I'm going to go Jessica Chastain. I think that would be a great choice for Poison Ivy. Catwoman.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Catwoman, I actually do like the Sofia Boutella choice. I was where I was going to go with it.
My one thing about the Sofia Boutella thing is right now I still don't know if she can act.
You know, she was good in Star Trek?
No, I do. I think she was good in Star Trek, but it was a certain kind of character. Like, her physicality is beyond reproach. What we saw her do in Kingsman, what we saw her do in Star Trek, and therefore for a project like this, that could become a big thing. I am just curious. I'm not dissing on her acting at all. I'm just saying I don't think we've seen enough to really know if she can act. And maybe something like this would give us a really good chance to see her mix that incredible physicality she has while showing a little bit of what she's got as far as acting shots. That could be interesting. Other than that, my answer to this is always pretty much the same. Insert any name of 5,000 talented actresses to fill the role and let them take a shot at it, and I'd be fine with it. What about you?
That's really funny. With Sophia and Catwoman, that's actually because of the physicality.
Yeah.
Catwoman's her physical prowess needs that, so that's actually a really good choice. I cannot go against Jessica Chastain because that would be going against goddess and perfection, so I can't do that. Emma Stone would also be a really good choice, just on the look that she has in her eyes for Catwoman. I think that would be great. I heard a rumor somewhere online that they're looking for Megan Fox for Catwoman. I hope I hope that's under the old regime of Warner Brothers that is now no longer there.
Right.
And I hope that's not like, hey, we're making changes. We just canned the big guy upstairs. All right, Megan Fox as Catwoman. That would be, don't do that. But I think those are all really good choices, honestly. I'm horrible at, like, just right now, think of a name. So I think those, Jessica Chastain for Catwoman.
You mean Poison Ivy.
Poison Ivy and Sophia for Catwoman. For
Schnepp?
I would like to see, because I want the Ben Affleck Batman to fit into this somehow. I want to see Emily Blunt as Catwoman. I want to see an older
great
Catwoman.
choice.
I just think that way it can carry through with the DC cinematic universe overall. And if they are segmenting this Gotham City Sirens and making it a female squads, you know, female versus female, superheroes versus villains, if we're going to see Batgirl in there, I think all these things could be really cool if they do it right. I'm glad they've got a great screenwriter involved. So, you know, I also agree for Jessica Chastain. She would be great as Poison Ivy.
All right, what's next?
Kyle writes, "Hey Collider crew, I've been watching for years now, and I always have a huge grin on my face when you guys make wrestling references. I'm a huge
It
wrestling
doesn't
fan."
matter what you think.
Ooh, yeah.
Look what
Snap
you
into a
started,
what?
Kyle. I'm a huge wrestling fan, and I cannot wait for the Chris Benoit biopic, Crossface. There's so much drama inside and outside of the ring, which could make amazing films and biopics. What wrestling biopics would you like to see? I believe the Montreal Screwjob would make an amazing film.
Yeah, I'm fascinated by this Chris Benoit project. I really hope it actually does get into production, and they brought on Lexi Alexander to direct, which I thought was a really cool choice. I think one of the stories I loved here, just because when you go into not only how great of a career he had, the drama the real life drama he had with the company, whether you're talking about the departure to the WCW, whether you're talking about the Montreal Screwjob, whether you're talking about any of that kind of stuff, and it's not just because he's Canadian. Bret the Hitman Hart. I think a story on Bret the Hitman Hart, because of all that stuff combined, and you go into the stuff like even back with his stuff with Jim Neidhart and the family drama, and you going back to who his father was Stu Hart, who's an icon and a legend in the world of wrestling. I think Bret Hart's the guy to go with. I don't know. What do you think?
If I had my slate, which I certainly have a bunch of ones I'd want to see, Macho Man would be pretty high up. The late, great friend of mine, Roddy Piper, would be up there. Those two guys would be right
Rowdy
there.
one.
But the movie that I really want to see is the Vince McMahon movie. The fact of how it all got made. I mean, you look at something like The Founder that's coming out.
I was going to say it could be like another version of The Founder.
You look at the Social Network, the thing like what he did. He turned. Remember, it was wrestling was just local promotions here and there, and he made it national. How did he do it? You talk about the Montreal Screwjob. He was the one that orchestrated.
He was
all
a
of
key
that.
figure in
he
that.
was a
Yeah.
key figure, like how you can get all these characters that we're talking about here involved in this world throughout the years. A young Vince McMahon until the Vince McMahon we know now. There's a lot of stuff. I mean, his involvement in politics, the fact that he created a football league. I mean, all these things, the relationship with his wife, the drama with the steroids. I mean, there's so much that you could do. You could do a mini series about Vince McMahon.
Schnepp, what about you? Got any wrestlers in your head that you'd like to see a story about?
I do actually. I was pals with Roddy as well, so Piper would be great, and he's got a great story. I mean, it's ups and downs, peaks and valleys. A fantastic
Family
biopic.
Man.
Yeah,
Yeah.
incredible biopic. But I got to echo. I'm just going to copy exactly what you said. Vince McMahon is without. I wasn't even thinking of him. That's the story I want to see. I think that is like an epic rise to the top story with tons of bottoming out, tons of really bad publicity, tons of amazing.
The war against Ted Turner.
Oh my God, yeah. So I mean, the McMahon story would be a fantastic movie. I mean, yeah, could it be a good 10-episode Netflix series? Probably even better. So,
What do you think?
Yeah, I think Harloff hit a nail on the head over here. It's what happens with the business people behind the scenes that's really, really interesting. Like, I remember I saw this documentary about the NWO. It was New World Order,
Right.
you know? And it was WCW was falling. They didn't know what to do, so they brought the NWO in, and it totally just shot up. And it was just a fascinating behind-the-scenes look. They're like, it just kind of became its own monster. It was like this hostile invasion in the ring with this order that was just like, we're the New World Order, and it just it changed WCW, at least for a time, until it all just kind of annexed and became WWE. But I agree, like the behind-the-scenes of Vince McMahon, what he did, and if they can show Vince McMahon doing business with, there's WCW and WWF and NWO, and when that happened, I mean, that's like 30 years that you can cover right there. That would just fascinate the hell out of me.
You know, it's funny that we're talking about, because it seems like an obvious name, but I was sitting down having lunch with Nick Mundy yesterday, and he brought up the story about how he once bought Hulk Hogan a drink. And if you really think about it, you're going back to that rise, the WWE. What really pushed, I mean, Vince did a lot of building up to a point, but then what really launched it was Hulk Hogan. It was Hulkamania. When he was able to put him forth, the ultimate male versus the ultimate meatball. You know, when he was able to put that forth, that guy was the face of professional wrestling. He became the face of the national, scene of professional wrestling. I mean, Hogan. And then if you want to fast forward now to future with stuff about his daughter and then the sex tape and Gizmodo and all that, there are a lot of fascinating stories there.
There is, but the problem with Hogan right now is that Hogan has a really bad stigma around him.
Well, no, that's true. Actually, that's huge.
With the comments that came out, he made some really horrible comments in a video that he didn't know he was being recorded in. Right. Nonetheless, he said it. It came out, and he's not. I don't think people will be flocking to see a Hogan movie because of those things. Quite honestly,
it's a really good point. It's a really good point. All right, guys. I said we would save some time for your live Twitter questions. I'm going to do that right now. Wendy, what have you picked out?
All right. The first one comes from Derek Spicer, who writes, "When will y'all see Assassin's Creed, and when does review embargo lift?" The first reactions from Premiere on Twitter were positive.
We are. There's a bunch of us that are going to go see it tomorrow night, actually. We're going to go see that tomorrow night. I believe the embargo doesn't lift until the 19th. So I'll be honest with you, that's 2 days before the movie comes out. That, to me, is a little bit of a red flag.
Yeah.
When the embargo, they're letting us see it now, review embargo until the 19th.
I think it's Monday, though. Does the movie come out on that Friday?
Well, I thought I heard it.
The movie comes out on Wednesday. It comes out on the 21st.
Oh, okay.
It comes on the 21st. So 2 days before the movie opens? That's not as bad as lifting the review embargo 1 day before it opens. Right. But 2 days, that's inching into the little bit of a warning red flag. Do they really believe in this movie? I'm not really sure, but who cares? I'm going to go into it with an open mind. I've been hoping, you guys know, I've been talking about this movie now for years and waiting for it, hoping it would become, well, I was hoping Warcraft would become the savior of the genre of video game movies. Now that rests on Assassin's Creed. We'll see if that can become it. So, yes, we see it tomorrow. Any thoughts you guys want to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, my thing is I remember when G.I. Joe The Rise of Cobra came out, and there were people who saw it early, and they all said it was amazing because sometimes that just happens in the world of business. But I am, fingers crossed, I'm like you, John. I'm an optimist. I'm going into this movie hoping it's good, hoping it's what redeems video game movies. It's just my nature. But I agree, an embargo 2 days before the movie comes out is a red flag.
Yeah, I don't see us redoing our greatest top 5 video game list. It's never going to topple Mortal Kombat.
It wouldn't be hard to get into the top 5.
Yeah, it's not hard to get in there. But yeah.
All right, what's next?
Chris Berg writes, after the passing of Alan Thicke, any fond memories of him?
Show me that smile.
Oh, gosh, I watched that show all the time.
I know.
Like, I watched that show all of the time. So, yeah, I mean, fond memories. It's like, yeah, I think it was 5:30 p.m. Monday through Friday. That was a great show.
Yeah, I mean, Alan Thicke, he was, being Canadian, he was a national treasure, man. Everybody loved Alan Thicke. He was great. I mean, and his son went on to become a very prominent celebrity and all that kind of stuff. I mean, we didn't mention it on Movie Talk per se because we usually confine that stuff to full-fledged movie personalities who pass away.
Also, so many people died this year. It's ridiculous.
Oh,
so we're tired of listing off all the talented people. It's horrible.
But how? I mean, I think you'd be hard pressed to find many people who, at some point in their childhood, wouldn't count moments growing up sitting around a TV with Alan Thicke on.
I thought he was a great host on Thick of the Night. I remember actually watching a couple episodes of that when I was younger, and it was like, I don't know why everybody gave him such a tough time. I think it was because there was only 3 networks on the planet, and they're like, you can't go against Carson. And there was a lot of people who were like, hey, we're going to try something different there, and just nobody would watch it. So
yeah,
I screamed out like a Vader, no, when I heard that he had passed, because he's like your TV dad. Man.
He was only 69.
Yeah, I was gonna say he wasn't that old either.
For old dudes, he was young.
Yeah,
he was young. Tragic, and he will definitely be missed. And I know that the entire country of Canada was mourning him, and it's just a terrible, terrible loss. So, all right, what's next?
Igor Didik writes, with all the with the platforms to watch movies after theatrical run, can there even be such a thing as an unprofitable movie?
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah.
It doesn't matter. You put a
The
turd
bomb.
out there, you can put it on a million platforms. Doesn't mean people are going to pay money to watch it. Just because it's available to be watched doesn't mean people are going to pay to watch it. So, yes, absolutely. As a matter of fact, despite what has happened is, with the advent of all these streaming options, it has helped because now it's much more convenient. You know, a lot of people ask me about my Blu-ray collection. The fact of the matter is, I don't have a very big Blu-ray collection. I prefer streaming my media. I'm an instant gratification kind of guy. I want to watch Civil War. I'm not going to run to the store and buy it. Google Play, boom, buy Civil War, and that's what I did. So like most of my movie collection is on my digital streaming service. It's made things easier, more convenient, and it has helped. Fact of the matter, though, is that home video made a lot more money when we were still all renting VHSs. I mean, it made a lot more money, or when DVDs first came out. So yeah, it is a drop in the bucket. It certainly helps, but it has not changed the game. If you guys have anything to add?
Nothing's bulletproof. That's just like a reality of life. There are things that will succeed, things that will not.
Max Steel will still make no money.
There's not 50 million people are going to, now I can get it for $4.99 on Google Play. No, they're still not going to get it. All right, what's next?
Christopher Corcoran writes, could Captain Boomerang return in the Flash movie? I'd love to see that.
Well, look, if he has his superpower of a little camera on his boomerang, then maybe that will work. I mean, I don't know. Look, with all the flack that this dude gets as an actor, I've loved him since he was in Spartacus. I loved him in Spartacus. He did I think even the most hardcore critics of his actually liked him in Suicide Squad. I mean, look, I would like to see him back, only if it makes sense to the story. But if it does and it fits, I'd be up to seeing him back.
Both him and Sam Worthington and Taylor Kitsch. Taylor Kitsch?
Taylor Kitsch?
Taylor Kitsch.
Taylor Kitsch, yeah.
The three of those guys, the problem was that they were all shoved in your face as superstar leading men, and they're not. But in side roles, they have proven that's their strength. He was great as Boomerang. He was one of the best things in that movie. And yes, I've been one of his toughest critics. I just don't think he's a leading dude. When you put that much on his shoulders, it just doesn't work. He was terrible in Terminator, but in the smaller roles I've seen him in, he's been great. So yeah, I'd like to see him come back.
I will disagree about Taylor Kitsch. I thought he was great in John Carter.
Yeah, he was great in John Carter.
And I just think he has picked terrible films to be in. But I think he could be a leading man.
I don't think he's a bad actor the way I thought that Jai Courtney was. I think that he just doesn't have that star thing, and I like John Carter. I did, but there's also something to be said. The reason it didn't pop. Same thing with Sam Worthington. There's things about him. Sometimes he opened a big movie with Avatar, one of the biggest movie of all time, but there's just something that audiences haven't got on and said, that's our guy.
But it's not a repeat. Like, I'm going to go see that movie because that person is in it. It's more like the idea behind
He's
the
a
movie.
great actor. He was great in that, and True Detective 2 was not great, Taylor Kitsch, but he was
really good in it, yeah.
I personally would prefer to Nazi Boomerang, the character appear in Flash. I don't care who's playing it, because I just don't think that's a worthy enough opponent to have as the main villain for a Flash movie.
Well, especially because of how easily he took him down in Suicide Squad.
Yeah, Suicide Squad, and also the Flash television show has actually amped up a lot of these other side characters. So I want to see something really big in the Flash movie. I want to see Crisis on Infinite Earth style storytelling in the Flash movie. It has to be bigger than the TV series.
I want to see Taylor Kitsch play the Condiment King in the Batman movie. I think that would be fantastic. I feel like you could have Boomerang and Jai Courtney in like the intro and one of the first things the Flash does, and just have 90% of it be that footage of when he catches him in the bank robbery or something else. But yeah, Boomerang has never been, nor should he ever be, a main villain for a Flash movie ever. So, but he can be in it, sure.
Okay, let's take two more quick. What's next?
All right, Kyle Marquise writes, why aren't box office numbers tallied by the week instead of just the weekend?
Well, I think because, the opening weekend is when most people go to see the movie. It's that and the weekend is when it's by far in any week, the weekend is when the vast majority of people go to see the movies. So they generally score by the opening weekend. It makes sense. I mean, yeah, you could do it the other way. There'd be nothing wrong with doing it the other way. But opening weekend seems to make sense. Do you guys have anything to add?
Nope. No. It's here and now. It's fast. It's there.
I mean,
the next
movies
week,
open.
other things.
Movies open Wednesday now or Thursday, but yeah, they tally those up Thursday night. They tell you what it earned.
What was the weekend? What was the 5-day? And all that kind of stuff. So, all right, last question of the day.
Last one comes from Archit Gupta, who writes, could you comment on the Academy disqualifies scores for Arrival, Manchester by the Sea, and Silence?
Well, here's the thing. First of all, I had not heard that those had been disqualified. But every year we hear about certain scores being disqualified. And I'm okay with it, totally okay with it, if it's disqualified because it does violate certain rules that the Academy has. I mean, if they have the rules, I assume they have whatever their rules are for good reasons. If it happens to violate those rules, okay, then it's disqualified. A lot of times, what fans don't care about rules quite often. I love that one, it should be nominated. And I get that feeling. I feel that way a lot of times too. But I'm sure, because remember, it's the people who make up the rules for these categories are composers, are the musicians, are the people who would normally be in this category themselves. They're the ones who make up the rules. So I'm sure if they have the rules, and each one would have to be evaluated on each thing. If they bring up a rival and say, should they have disqualified it? And they easily point out, there's this pretty big important rule, and this is where they violated, then no, it shouldn't be eligible and it should be disqualified. Whether the rules are good or bad, I'm not a composer, so I'm not qualified to say. So I don't really have much of an opinion on it. What do you guys think?
Rules are the rules.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been on the receiving end of that, where it's like, I love that score, and somehow it's like, yeah, but it borrowed that from an already existing song, so the
Right.
score's not eligible, and it bummed me out, but I agree. It's like,
Yeah.
in the end, the rules are there for a
Like
reason.
Hans Zimmer, I remember like one of his scores, I think it was for The Dark Knight, which is such an incredible score, couldn't be qualified because he had someone else help him compose it.
Yeah, something
Certain-
like that. It was a Hans Zimmer Nolan thing, I
Yeah.
think, was what it is.
Okay, guys, that'll do it for us for this installment of Movie Talk. Thank you so much for joining us. I want to thank the guys sitting at the table with me. First of all, sitting over there, Mr. Jon Schnepp. Schnepp, where can people find you online?
Hey, what's going on? You guys can find me at Twitter and Instagram. Just at Jon Schnepp. See you later. Watch Heroes.
Sitting right beside him, surprisingly awake, is Jeremy Jahns. Jeremy, where can people find you?
You can find me at YouTube, Instagram, at Jeremy Jahns, Facebook, at Real Jeremy Jahns. It's a part over there, folks.
Mr. Kristian Harloff, where can people find you?
Twitter and Instagram. Make sure you watch Jedi Council on Thursday, and then I'm going to take Makuga and smack his face out his ass when he comes to the Schmodown tomorrow. I'm taking the revenge. I'm going to beat that fool.
And sitting over there, of course, Natasha Martinez. Where can people find you?
You guys can find me on Twitter and Instagram at NatashaLuxus_.
And probably somewhere watching the Despicable Me trailer again.
Yes.
And, of course, Wendy Lee. Wendy, where can people find you?
You can find me on the Movie Couple channel, on YouTube, and on Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat at Wendy Lee Zaney.
And, of course, you guys can follow me on Facebook and on Twitter simply at Jon Campea. That'll do it for us, guys. Thanks so much for joining us. And until next time, bye-bye.
Hey guys, if you like this video, click the thumbs up button. Also, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. It'll help you stay up to date with everything we've got going on here at Collider.